comments.
We are live. So, welcome to Carla Astrology. Today, I have a very special guest, Mrs. Julia Cuccia-Watts. Did I say that right?
Cuccia-Watts.
Cuccia-Watts. Cuccia-Watts. Okay. So I'm so excited to have you here. I mean, I'm a big fan for one. And I just respect you so much. Everything, that you've accomplished. When I think of the maiden, the mother, and the crone, I feel like you are what we all aspire to become.
Oh, thanks, Carla. Thanks for having me too. Thanks for having me.
So, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I think most of my harvest is done, and just gonna get ready for winter here.
That's nice. That's nice. That kind of I have that question in the back of my mind. So what are you doing now? What do you have going on like right now in your life?
Well, like right now, we just have been harvesting the garden, and I don't know. I'm kind of really been focusing in on some fiber art that I've wanted to do for a long time because
Ooh.
face it, I've been doing decks, like redoing decks and working on decks and books for the last intensively since 2016. Actually longer than that. And I sometimes need to just take a break and
Yeah.
do fiber art, do something tangible. Um, so I've been knitting a lot of lace shawls lately because I just learned how to do that. And
Wow.
not
So
not working on anything esoteric at the moment.
does that after a while start to hurt your brain?
You just need a break. It's you start to spin for, it's solid in there. I can talk about it. And maybe it's time to just talk for a while instead of constantly like striving to build something new. I've been,
You've accomplished a lot. And speaking of that, your website is newmoontradingco.com.
yes.
And you have a plethora of items. I mean, because one, you're an artist, right? Now, can people buy your art on there?
Yes. Yes. I have paintings for sale. I have decks for sale. Um, I used to do commissions, but I'm really not doing commissions anymore. Just kind of selfishly doing what I want to do.
Well, I think you've earned that right.
Yeah.
I just actually found your website a while back so that I could get some of your goodies, and I finally got the Journey into Tarot or
Okay.
Journey into Egypt Tarot,
Yeah, that's
and it's beautiful.
thank you.
And I also, because of your app, I found, since I am, I little frugal sometimes. I don't
Oh, the app
mean
is
to
great.
be, but
Yeah, the app
now I
is great.
have, the
Oh,
app itself for the Mott.
yeah.
I have that, and of course I have the Journey into Egypt on there, and then the book is accessible because of the app. You can read all of it. I think that was brilliant.
Yeah, that's really an excellent way to have it all for $4.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you have it with you all the time. And I actually use that app, both apps every morning for my daily pull because it's random generated and it's easy and it really actually works well.
It
You
looks nice. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like looking at a card. And then I just recently got this, the workbook, and I was messing with this morning. And no, I did not write in it. That way, if anybody else wants to use it, they can.
Well, you could scan it and then you could write on those pages
Mm, yeah,
because then
yeah,
you could have the benefit of both or you
that's
could
a
just
good
like,
idea.
you could put the page in a journal or something.
Absolutely. Oh, well, you know what? Let's say hi, everybody. We've said
Lots of
your husband Peter is in here. We've got Maria and Carol and Amber is here. Oh, she's outside, but she's here. We're no, I'm just kidding.
Where? I don't
I'd
see her.
I'd rather be outside her house and near the ocean, but
Yeah, it's silly
anyway.
to be outside here.
Oh, yeah, it is here too.
Well, you
So
you must be on the same latitude as me, right?
I think so. I think so. It's
Yeah.
I'm lower Michigan.
I'm lower Wisconsin. So,
Oh,
yeah, we have probably the same weather. I probably have the weather you have the day after me.
hmm yeah. So like high 50 today, but
Yeah.
sunny, just
Yeah.
chilly, crispy.
Yes.
It's actually my favorite time of year.
Yes. Me too.
And you too? Yeah. And why is that?
I just, I like the harvest and I like the pumpkins and to smell the dry leaves. And it just reminds me of, Halloween and childhood and starting school and being with my friends and, all the good things about fall.
Absolutely. And the colors,
Yeah, the colors, especially,
beautiful colors.
and
Yeah,
birthday season
that's true. So,
for me anyway.
tell everybody what your sign is in real sky.
Okay, my sign in real sky is a Libra with a first quarter Capricorn moon and an Aries rising.
So, with Western being Scorpio,
Right.
and do you relate to the Libra?
Well, what's really weird is, for me with real sky, Libra is associated with the scales and Mahat. And I named a deck Mahat.
Yeah,
And that was
there's
way before
four.
I knew about real sky, right? And so it was a really odd coincidence. And it was really actually like, oh, is that why? Is that why I named this deck Mahat? Did I know that somewhere, in the back of my mind? Like just another layer of weirdness. Yeah. He thought he married a Scorpio.
Yeah,
He
I
married a
think Libra is. I mean, that's when I think of Libra, because that's actually what my Western sign is. So I grew up thinking I was Libra, even though I associate more with Virgo. But Libra is like, I feel that's the marriage sign, that's
well, that's
Venus.
what they say it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, question then. So I could tell by the like reading between the lines there that the descriptions of the Western signs is that different than do you think than maybe real sky might look at them a little bit different?
Yeah, definitely. Real sky looks at them differently for sure. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I think they'll take Libra for instance. It's the scales of justice. Yeah, and that comes through well in Western culture. But it's also the scales of judgment, like weighing your heart against a feather, and Mahat, which is the laws of the universe, the natural laws. And, scales are rather precarious instruments. Like you put something on one side and you're going to have an imbalance. So you have to have the balance. And it is about balance. And it's not just about being wishy washy, it's about like knowing, having consequences for your actions and knowing that if I do this, there's going to be this.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So finding that harmony, finding that balance, because if you're not, then maybe that's when you notice more of the darker qualities.
right. You're going to, like Scorpios in Western astrology get judged as being dark and sinister and vengeful. And so that, they're always judged for any kind of action they might take for injustice. Um, I don't know. So,
Right.
so you as a Virgo, how do you feel about being a Virgo instead of
Oh, absolutely. I feel like, in all honesty, because of identifying as a Libra, you know, um, I could see those qualities. Okay. But when I found out my real sky, then I was like, oh my gosh, now everything's falling into place, because I've always been somebody that wants to do everything in a certain way every day. I'm very routine. I'm very down to earth, like to take care of my family. So it's like everything, and everything is about family. And then just analytical, because I tend to look into everything. So I feel like, yeah, I could see the Libra, but I definitely identified more with Virgo. So I almost wonder if it's like a progression of, you're still trying to find yourself, you know, so you can see yourself in the other signs. But then as you progress into your, like for myself, my mother and my crone years, now I'm actually seeing my true self. And now I definitely see Virgo.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And with the real sky, you have an Egyptian god to go with every sign. And um, your Egyptian god would be Hathor with her sistrum. And the sistrum was used to move energy and was also an instrument of celebration, but it was also an instrument that could actually move stagnant energy and shake it up. And she has this high priestess kind of character, and she stands singularly in her power, not with a partner.
Wow,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah,
I don't need nobody. No, I'm just kidding.
I know a lot of ex Libras who are now Virgos who have always been a solo show
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
powerful.
Maria, I want to catch this. Oops. Maria says, it took me a while to come to terms with my real sky Gemini, but now I'm seeing it more and more. But the Cancer is also very me. I associate with them both.
Well, the Western culture definition of Cancer is going to have evolved into a place where it's going to, like even when you're doing a tarot reading and a card will evolve to describe the situation, that Western culture signs have evolved to describe the people, the natives that are born under that sign. But these old symbols really like still hold true. And it's like worth reading about the mythologies behind each of the symbolic signs and where those come from. And I think that was one of the most fun things for me to do in sort of just rediscovering this. And to see that it isn't male, female order in the signs, but actually a whole half of a sky is all masculine and the whole half of the other sky is feminine. And in between, you have some androgyny. And um, it's really very interesting.
Wow. Yeah. It's like associate. Then you also have the archetype itself to associate that sign with. So it would easier to identify those qualities in other people. I do that with tarot myself now.
Yeah.
Like let me get this real quick. Peter says, it's interesting and crazy how attached we get to our learned astrology. I thought that I was a Pisces, but it turns out I'm an Aquarius. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I would have definitely thought of Peter just from the little bits and pieces of listening to him talk. An Aquarius, because most Aquarians that I know are extremely eccentric. And he's not afraid to be eccentric, and I love that. Let's see. I think think most of this. Oh, what do we? And Amber says, I'm pretty solitary, and my brother is the opposite, but on my list is to develop, but I'm naturally very solitary. Yeah, she's Virgo, right? I think a real sky
Yep,
too.
yep, yep. Yeah, her
So,
sign stayed the same because
but
Virgo is such
Virgo's big.
a long sign, right? And it was something that I read early on when I was working on Journey into Egypt. It was about um, in ancient times, um, the stars were once a very long woman, which really associates with Nut, the sky goddess in Egypt. And Virgo stayed long, even though I think that what they're talking about is the Milky Way,
Okay.
um, but or the serpent, which is the Milky Way as well. Um, the Wajet or the snake goddess, the early snake goddess, was the uh, same thing as Nut and night and the sky and the stars and the Milky Way. And it's all the same word. And, the night was feminine. And, the really harsh sun was also feminine. So the sky in Egypt was feminine and the earth was masculine, which is different than a European take on or a European take on it.
Wow, that's extremely interesting.
Yeah, which
Oh,
kind
oh,
of gives you the it implies that we were born of the sky, you know.
right. And I hear that's when we die, we become a celestial body. Well, or
Yeah,
they,
a lot of cultures, ancient cultures and indigenous cultures say that the Milky Way is the Trail of Souls, and, they often call that the Trail of Souls. And the Egyptians thought that the Milky Way was like a reflection of the Nile in the sky.
so B asked, what are we? Are we talking about? We got a different sign?
Yeah,
And
go look in an astronomy app and look up your birthday and find out if you still have your sun in the same sign, because you might be
right.
surprised.
So real sky is that's the term you coined, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what Robert Bauval called it, the real
Oh,
sky. He said the real
okay.
sky works, and I just started calling it real sky.
Okay.
So,
I like that, and I hear it all the time. I mean, people are I hear it more and more, but if like say 10 years ago, if I was to look it up, it would have been true
true
sidereal
sidereal.
or
Yeah, and some people call it true sidereal. I didn't know anybody was even working on that, like in my oblivion.
it's interesting because and then I think there was like something called Vedic, which
Vedic is the Indian version of astrology, and they've always used the real sky. Their methods are really different. Uh, they have sort of a very strange square scope, but I like the round scope because it reminds me so much of the Egyptian calendar. And that was my first and biggest clue at the source of astrology was that scope being with the compass points of Egypt and having the south above and the north below
okay.
instead of like the European compass points that are with north above because of the way that the river runs in Egypt is south to north, so that the north is lower Egypt and the south is upper Egypt. And when people talk about, upper Egypt and lower Egypt, the European mind will often get that really confused and think upper should be Alexandria and lower should be, Luxor area. I'm like, no, it's because they're thinking of their own worldview. So upper is south. That's where the Nile comes from.
That is absolutely, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those,
Yeah, I know, and that was just sort of like circumstantial evidence that the horoscope is based in Egypt. It's their
wow,
calendar. It's the 12 months divided into 12 months, and then within that, it's, 3 weeks with 10 days. 3 3 10-day weeks, and those are your little pie shapes in your horoscope is divided into 30 degrees, and there are 3 decans, and even the word decade
right,
is Latin, which is the Roman translation. So it's like you almost have to, like, go back in time, and everything has been translated either to Greek or Roman, which is or, Greek or Latin, and which is what ancient scholars would have to learn Greek and Latin. Why? So they could read the ancient scrolls, because
right.
that's what everything was written in. But that's still just a tiny keyhole of what was ancient Africa, because Kemet, no one even knew how to read Kemet or understand Kemet by the time the Ptolemies were there. It was almost a lost language. The priests still knew how to read it and knew how to to say the words, but the Greeks that we get our information from did not know that language.
So much stuff gets lost in translation. I mean, it's like, how do you really know unless obviously you yourself has done a lot of research. But for somebody like ourselves, it's hard to trust unless we go out and we do that research ourselves or we find someone like yourself who has, because firsthand is so much better. I do want to address uh, Lady Knight's question, which she's asking Julie, have you heard of the silver and the golden gate in our galaxy? The silver gate in Orion and the golden gate in Ophiuchus, and do you factor those in?
That must be the place um, where you run into the Milky Way, because that's what it seems like to me. Because that's where it would be the gate that would pass over the Milky Way. Those two places is where they connect, where the lines between the ecliptic and the Milky Way connect. And that would be the only thing that I would think it would be. Um, I've not heard of it termed that way, but I don't really get into the minutia of Western astrology.
Right. And myself, I'm clueless. Well, on the silver gate and all that, but she's been studying Golden Dawn, and I think even before that it was, you
Well,
know,
there were ancient scrolls that certain secret societies would have held on to. And these are all their terms, their terminology. So, if you're not in the inner circle, you might not understand it. Um, but you can find out about it and maybe call it something else.
she said these gates were in context of ascension. So it must be something for the tree of life, maybe an association, I think.
Kind of a portal, maybe? Is it a portal?
So that kind of, I mean, you just explained that the reasons that you believe that astrology began in Egypt.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm really thinking it was something really old, because in Africa there are stones that align to different constellations that are like 8,000 years old in the Western desert that used to be a savanna when the climate was different. So there's a lot about Africa and the Sahara that we don't know. I mean, there could be civilizations still buried out there that no one has found yet, because
Right.
humanity is so much older than just 10,000 years. And
Yeah.
we
And we
know
get
that from the
we get
fossil record even.
Right. And we're only finding out little bits and pieces all the time as things are discovered. And how do we know, even after something's discovered, if we're not given the truth of it?
Well, we're also getting the window of bias of whatever the worldview is of the people who are studying it. And, um,
Absolutely.
everything came out of Africa. I mean, genetics says that. Our DNA is going to tell us a story. And some of us might not have the genetic memory to even go back that far. We may have to depend on, fossil record and other people's teachings to figure out the lost history of humanity. Because we
So,
are all related, but some of us just have much younger genes.
so to pick your brain a little bit, then, do you think that, do you believe in like past lives? Like you lived a past life?
Yeah, I do believe in past lives.
You
I do.
yourself,
I do because I have memories of past lives. I have, had a lot of bleed through um, in my life already. I mean, even when I was little, 4 years old, and I'm talking to my mom, and I say, "So, mom, where do you go when you die?" Because I knew, but I wanted to know if she knew. And she goes, "Oh,
oh,
you die, and then you go and live with God." And I'm like, "Yeah." And then you come back, and you get to do things over that you didn't get right. And she goes, "No." And I go, "Yeah." And then she goes, "No." And we fight back and forth. And I said, "Mom, I can see it like steps. You get to come back and you get to do things over that you didn't do right the last time." And then she would just didn't know what to think about me.
and your mother
And
is
I just,
religious, or
yeah, my mom is super religious. Yeah. Yeah. She thinks there's one life and that's it. And I never thought that.
so if say somebody was to come up to you, I mean, obviously I think we treat our families like we all maybe obligated to share that knowledge. But if somebody didn't know and they were open to your suggestion of, the things that you believe, I guess on a specific point, what would you tell them about Christianity or religion without, you know,
But oh, I would say, you know, I have this feeling like the Gospels are written around the same time that Claudius Ptolemy was writing about precession, and he was precessing the sky to Pisces, and that he predicted that based on his calculations on precession, that the Piscean age would begin in 221 AD. And he was writing during the same time that the Gospels were written, which was about 150 AD. So part of me thinks that, the mythology of Christianity is based on the Piscean mythology and that they were getting ready to move from the age of Aries, which would have been the Amun Ra. And Amun Ra was the invisible sun at midnight. Like you couldn't see him. He was an abstract, invisible god. And he was a ram headed god. Um, he was the sun at midnight. And so he was this invisible energy. And so people were starting to worship the invisible god. And the Piscean age um, is based on the fish, which, if you see the hieroglyph in Dendera, you'll see two fish connected with a string. But what's holding the string is the god Thoth in his baboon form. And the baboons in Egypt would fish at the Nile at sunrise and sunset because that is the best time to fish. Anybody who fishes knows that that's the best time to fish. But the symbolism of that as well is that at sunset and at sunrise, that's the place where the portal is to the other world. So where the sun goes down is a place is a doorway to the other world. Where the sun comes up is a doorway to the other world. And the doorway moves. And the baboon was the one charged with guarding that door. So when you look at um, that the baboon as Thoth, who is a magician, he's also
Mhm.
a scribe.
Mhm.
He's also the person who guards the door to the Duat, which is the other world. And you have to get past the baboons in order to cross into the other world. And you have to trick them and let them think that you are also a god and that you're also a fisherman. And you have to tell them all the parts of the net, which are different gods and goddess names. And the net is, and sometimes you'll see people buried in a net, like the dress will be like a net, just to prove that they too are fishermen. Um, the net is what catches the people who aren't spiritual, who are mundane. And those people are the fish. And they are caught in the magician's net and they don't get to pass to the next world. They don't go on to the next world.
Wow.
So that's symbolic of the whole the whole Christian concept is
Mhm.
that if you are not, you know, Jesus said, I'll make you fishers of men. I mean, that is pretty blatant, the mythology of
Mhm.
fishers of men. And it's like, I don't know, it's like there's this higher elite group that has all the magic, and then it's the other people who feed these people. And that's what we've been living with for 2,000 years. If we stay in Western astrology, then we stay in the age of Pisces forever. And wouldn't that be nice for the magicians?
Yeah.
And I mean, the symbolism goes so far as even the word Congress is a gathering of baboons. Like the founding fathers knew what they were doing.
Mhm.
They were standing up against the sovereignty of or the divine right of kings, which had been holding sway since the age of God kings in the age of Aries. And they were going to stand together as a congress to stand up to the divine right of kings. It's all like this patriarchal structure.
Yeah. That's been there. It's like they found something they could use and take advantage of because it's almost innate in everyone that to worship something or to be a part of something spiritual to find out
They're
why are we here.
afraid of something. And if you have people afraid of things, then you can control them. And this has been the sort of might is right way of doing things since the Romans took over. And if you think the Romans are done, they're still connected to the Roman church. And that's still Rome. That's still the old Rome. And even though, many different kinds of people have passed through the papacy, there was a period during the Renaissance where the royal families that had been sort of like separate from the church, but powerful because they probably held some kind of secret. And that's the only reason there would be royal families is if they had some kind of hold over the Vatican. So um, once the royal families had gotten into the Vatican, they were like, "Hey, let's not wreck a good thing. This is a great power structure." So they kept it, and it's still there. And that's my take on Christianity, and no more than that. I
It
don't.
scares me to even think that they would ever want to combine church and state again.
It has been that way. I mean,
But
for
to make,
for
yeah, well, you're right. It is. We're just,
and
yeah,
they
we're
just wanna pull it back in, they just want they like the old ways, and it works
mhm.
for them, but it doesn't work for everyone, and it's not fair.
You're right. You know what did it for me? I forget the name of the book, but it's been years ago. But it was It was a big text about the writing of Daniel, the book of Daniel. And I remember reading in the intro pages that the book of Daniel was written by more than one author, and like 500 or so years after the account. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how much stuff gets lost in translation? And can you count on that? But yet it's in the Bible.
Well, like the King James version of the Bible, which is not based on anything, it wasn't based on anything original. And, so many people take it literally. And I think, what was a big turning point for me in my life, because I was raised Catholic. I was a good little Catholic girl. But I got married to a man who was Wisconsin Synod Lutheran, and they were literalists. And I would get so mad and I would get so pissed off. And I mean, religion didn't really make any difference to me because it was like, oh, it's all the same God. So who cares? So I joined their church. And that pissed me off so bad that I thought, these people are lying. These people are
Mhm.
lying about the Catholics. They're lying. They're so misogynistic. And they I just was like, I was aghast. And so I thought, if if the Lutherans are lying about the Catholics, what are the Catholics lying about? And I thought maybe all the weird stuff that happened to me when I was a kid was real and all of this is garbage. And then a couple of years later, I was introduced to Native American um, spirituality, and I was like, this is what is real. And yeah, my marriage lasted 2.5 years. It didn't last very long. And, I wasn't able to grow or think or, it was like it was a constant battle. I mean, we had fights about evolution because he was like, "You believe in evolution?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I believe in evolution." And he was like, he was just losing his mind on me. So I'm I am like I know exactly where these people are coming from, and I just wanted to scrape away all of that.
Mhm.
And that's what I did through my 20s is just scrape away what's real. Scrape away all of this patriarchal religious stuff and get to what's real and understand where it came from and why it came from. And what do I believe? What do I think? And past life stuff. And yes, there was reincarnation in the church until Justinian. And yes, all the books of the Bibles changed during the Council of Nice. And, you know, all of that stuff is based on older stuff. And Egypt for me was like home. Like that was the place that I felt really connected because I loved the symbolism as an artist. I loved looking at the symbols and the stories, and the picture language just made sense to me, and it does make sense to me. It's sort of like an oral tradition because a picture doesn't change.
Yeah.
The meaning of a picture doesn't change.
What memories do you have? I mean, of past life that makes you, I'm assuming you have them of Egypt.
Um, I have like tiny little flashes of stuff. Well, I had that vision that where I woke up, at Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, in 1981. That was huge because I didn't know anything about what was there, but I was definitely not just observing it. I was in the body of this brown-skinned woman with long black hair. That was intense.
Mhm.
But my interest in Egypt was, since grade school, since the very first time I ever saw any Egyptian things in books, and was interested in specific things. So it's sort of this unconscious, um, like, I like this. Like, I'm very interested in the cat from ancient Egypt. this vast statue. Was very interested in reading about that. I had an incident in 4th grade where I was my best friend and I both wanted to be archaeologists, and we'd race to the bookshelves and try to find the new archaeology books. So I had this great Egyptian book, and I'm looking at all the pictures first, as then I'll go back and read. So as I'm looking through all the pictures, I see this beautiful gold cat. And I'm like, okay, I want to read about this, but I want to finish looking at all the pictures first. So I go through the whole entire book, look at all the pictures, then go back and I want to read about the cat. I can't find it. I
What?
can't find the picture. I went through the book 5 times. I could not find the picture of the cat. I could not find it ever. And I never saw the cat again until I was in college. And I was in a bookstore and there was a statue of a cat. And it was in that vast shape, that sitting up cat. And I couldn't believe I found the cat. And that memory had stayed with me that long.
Wow.
And so Bast became very important to me. And when I would journey, I would always have a little black cat with me. And sometimes the cat would be small, or it would be a kitten, or sometimes it would be in my face. But even when I woke up at Hatshepsut's mortuary temple, I had a black cat with me. It was a kind of a larger cat with a really small head and big ears. I don't even know what type of cat that is, but it was, a black cat that was with me. So, um, I don't know. There's just been stuff that has bled through that, I can't dismiss it.
So when you say journey, do you mean like meditation, dreams, visions?
Um, the the incident where I was at my mother's house staying overnight because it was Easter break was me waking up in a different place, like literally waking up somewhere else. Like this was more than a dream, it was more than a vision, it was an actual physical like thing, which I ended up waking up from and then waking up again. So a dream within a dream,
Oh, yeah.
and the most intense experience I've ever experienced, and yeah, like, and it was an auspicious day too because it was a full moon and it was the equinox and it was also Easter time. And that in itself was a symbol that I can still, you know, build on because I didn't know when I was 22 years old how important the spring equinox was to Egypt, because that's when they would look on the horizon to see what the constellation was, because that would be the age. That's a symbol that, like, if the earth or if the universe isn't conscious and trying to tell you something, I mean, that's the universe trying to tell me about timing. Um, you know, that this is a message.
1981, right? That's the
That was the day.
what were you doing in your life at that time?
I was divorcing my husband. I was going to Whitewater to school at BW Whitewater. I was taking freshman courses at age 22. I had a son who was 2 years old. I was a single mom, and my life was really messed up. But spiritually, it was like my spiritual doors were being blown open.
Right.
And I'd just gotten
Absolutely.
into Native American studies and understanding that reincarnation is real and that dreams are real and that there's such a thing as an out of body experience, and really getting into my past life stuff, like really diving right in. And um, yeah, it was really, and knowing that no one in my family would ever understand what I was talking about. So I only had
Right.
a few people that I could talk to, um, that would understand me, would understand what I was saying.
So what do you think then I mean, because, that's all, like, extremely wow for a young woman at that time to be going through, I mean, let alone your life, but then the spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah, like,
Did
it
you
was trial by fire, like, absolute trial by fire. I never wanna go through something like that again. Like, it was so disorienting to have like, I literally gave everything I had away, and eventually I even gave away my son, and, like, just gave it all away and started over.
so, eh, like, at that time, because your family was, were they strict in their religion?
They were strict in their religion. I think, my mom was still raising teenagers in the house, and then she was helping me out with my son as well. So it was a lot of stress on her, and I think she really resented that I was off on my own and going to school, and um, just kind of resented that she was carrying this big load, and I was having all these spiritual revelations, and when I would talk about this stuff, and then she'd say, "Well, it's nice that you have time for that." So she resented that I was having this
Made you
spiritual
even more
experience.
alone.
Yeah, which I was really alone at that time. And I feel like the only thing I had with the spirits, they were the ones coming through for me. And whether those were ancestors or just spirits of the land or what they were, I mean, it was, a very intense time. And
So what
everybody
do
just
you
wanted me to go back with my husband and just, be a normal person.
Oh,
It
of
was too
course.
late for that. I was totally out of the box. And, like
Well,
heaven
what do you
was out
think about, then what do you think about witchcraft?
don't do it. 'Cause whoa, 'cause, I've done it and, um, man, I've got my butt beat for doing it too.
But during that time that you were going through, I mean, did you, like, ever look in that direction in that
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
okay.
Now I
That's
did
what I was
everything right,
curious.
and I still got my butt kicked anyway. Like, magic works, and it also comes back and smacks you if you don't know what you're doing, so don't just do it.
I am very like-minded in that aspect. I know and I believe in it. I'm not ready to practice because I feel like that's something that I would have to know a lot about because I wouldn't wanna be foolish with it
I
yet.
was foolish with it. I did a binding spell one time. I was so proud. I can do this. Yeah, do a binding spell. Make the poppet out of your own fabric, and then bind that poppet, and then put it under a rock. And the next day, you won't have a telephone, and there'll be a flood in town, so you can't use your car.
Holy s
And then for the next 3 years, the same thing will happen. People can call you, but your 0 button on your phone isn't gonna work, so you can't call anyone else. And yeah, I was pretty dumb. I don't do any sort of control magic or magic to enrich myself. I don't do that. I don't do magic.
I th I'm wondering if you might be in the same, mindset that if you're not spiritually sound with yourself, happy, content, have good energy, no blockages, then I would say it's safe to practice maybe.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then no. Like,
I
okay,
s I just wouldn't do it for myself. I just
okay,
wouldn't do it because it's too powerful. Because there will always be, payment. I'm not willing to make the payment.
I
Mm.
see.
It's too expensive. Magic is too expensive, and it's not the easy way out. It's not the
Because
easy.
it's a give and
Yeah,
take process.
yeah.
But isn't what you're talking about like astral projection, meditation, and out of body experiences? Isn't that magic?
That was spontaneous. Whatever was happening was completely spontaneous, and you know, I don't know if it's like my future self coming back and helping my younger self, or my dead self coming back and helping my younger self. I don't really know, you know, what that was. I think of it as, I don't know, it was, sometimes it sounded like m mechanical, like computer noises. So, I don't really know what that all was, and it's been a quest to find out what that all was, and I'm still on the quest.
Yeah, absolutely. So you feel like, there's always something that is might possibly teach you something else that you didn't know yesterday just because of that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so like, wow, that those are, you've answered my biggest questions, because like for you, my interview is to get to know, how your mind thinks, because I feel like you are one of the great, you're a great thinker. You want, you're always looking at the big picture. You're always diving deep. So, I want to ask you questions like, uh, what you think about this and that, because that tells me, you know,
I'm a divergent thinker, that's for sure. Um,
absolutely.
I
That
wasn't
test that
raised
I,
to be that way. I definitely wasn't raised to be that way. I was raised to be normal. Like, you know, it was almost like beaten out of me, but like I'm stubborn.
but thank God, or thank
Whatever.
somebody, your higher self.
Yeah, whatever that is, you know.
Yeah, see, I believe that there's a God, but I know it's not the God in the Bible.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely
But
not
I,
a patriarchal God.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's to me,
It's
it's
like
like Star
some
Wars, the
higher
Force.
consciousness, like some
Yeah.
higher, like, conscious universe. Like, anytime that I was out of my body, like, even when I was in that other woman's body, that small, dark-skinned, long, black-haired woman, even though it was not my body, it was still my mind. I didn't have her thoughts, and I didn't know who she was, and, I was still Julie.
See, that's very interesting. I've had where I've been in someone else's body, but I was still me.
Yeah,
So,
you're
but I
still
could
you.
did you feel the emotions of the
Nope,
person?
nope,
Okay.
just my own astonishment. It's like, "Where the hell am I?" Just kind of
Wow.
like, "Whoa," and I thought I was in Greece because of the white buildings and the water, because there was so much water there, which is not normal for that place. But there was dark water and dark sky and dark red and, like, red in the sky and a thunderstorm, which
So,
is
what are your theories on Atlantis then? Because that's where my mind went when you're talking about water.
my theories on Atlantis is probably happened. I'm not sure where it was. I mean, those stories were quite old, even in Egyptian times. It was 10,000 years before Egyptian times. There was some, I can't remember exactly who got the stories out of the priests. The Egyptian priests said 10,000 years before this time. And that was like, 4,000 years ago when they were telling that story, or 2,000 years ago, like a long time ago. But, you
So,
know,
I'm
so
thinking
I'm thinking climate change. I'm thinking 12,000 years ago, look, the end of the last ice age. I think
like an
that's when,
era. So,
yeah,
it
I'm
was an
thinking
era,
that.
not just a particular place. It was like a time on Earth.
Yeah, well, all of the ancient people have a flood story. Like
Yeah.
everybody has a flood story, a big flood story. And, even like here in the United States, when the glaciers were here, like 15,000, 12,000, 15,000 years ago, um, like Wisconsin Dells was formed in the matter of months when the glaciers melted. Like it just happened suddenly. Climate change is kind of a big deal and it seems to be on the agenda. So,
So, Tangi says, my very first life incarnate was a female Adlenian with powdery pink hair. Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
believe you, Tanty.
Mhm. I do too. So, I remember posting in the our group about the INFJ and the our Myers-Briggs personality, and
Okay.
you had said you're INFJ.
Yeah.
So how long have you known your INFJ, or did you just recently?
No, like 1990s.
And have you taken the test
Recently.
periodically?
I think at last time I took it, I was um, not J, but P, like perception rather than
Right.
judgment,
Mhm.
which
Mhm.
was like just an online thing, just
Yeah.
kind of answering the questions online.
So yeah.
Definitely introverted, definitely intuitive.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely
And
feeling.
I was so did you what do you think about the test? Do you think it's accurate?
I suppose. I suppose. I mean, I guess they have ways of tricking you into answering the questions,
Right.
fully, so that you're not gaming the test. Um,
Yes, I've that's one thing I've taken it more than once and gotten the same answer. So I think that it is about, some of the tests are a little bit different, but if you're being true to yourself and answering them as you really are and not projecting how you want to be, whatever that may be, you're going to get the same answer every time.
yeah, I don't think there's a winning one. It's like,
Yeah, it's not going to, oh, you got an A on this test.
oh, this is the letters that you want to be.
Or that,
The
exactly.
popular
Because
letters are these.
there's a shadow side of everything.
Right.
But I I asked that question because that is it's a definite archetype. It's just like, astrology, and
Yeah, I,
it's
I took the test, but I never really like followed up on, you know, exactly like any more on that.
well, the INFJ is the Queen of Cups in the tarot,
Oh, okay.
which is somebody that holds, that could potentially have all the control over their emotions, and how they uh not blow up on somebody, but then the shadow of that is they meet that boiling point and they're over the top. So I mean, and that's just one aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that could be me.
Exactly. And then the judgment is more judgmental of your own self. It's you are more critical of yourself probably than anybody.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's what keeps you on this path of going forward, of trying to be better than who you were
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah, for sure.
Um, all
And
right.
judging of things. I mean, like who would be old enough to judge astrology or mainstream things?
And stand up to the people going, how many times I've heard, oh, that's just crazy, that's nonsense, whoever's spewing that, and I'm thinking, then you haven't researched it, because why? I feel like that, it's a
Thinking is
question.
hard, Carla. Thinking is hard. I don't wanna have to think. I wanna believe, and that's good enough. Let
Yeah,
someone
because
else
that
do
is,
the thinking. They've already thought about it, so I'm good.
but life is not perfect. So why would
Yeah,
you, box yourself in something that is specifically, what is it, 30, 33 degrees? What is the degrees in astrology, in Western astrology? Whereas Real Sky has, like Virgo is
yeah,
49, and
yeah. I don't really, like, count the degrees, I just kinda look at the app and see where everything is, like, and you can estimate, like,
by looking at the
a third
sky.
of that, what would be a third, another third, just to see how far you are in, because back in the ancient times, calendars were really kind of stretchy too. I mean, during the different reigns in Rome, like, the calendar would change, and you'd lose, like, gaps of time, and somebody might be ruling for like they'd start the calendar when they began their rule, and then things would go out of sync with the seasons, but, all of a sudden you'd have this really long amount of time. So calendars are also sketchy, and even the calendar that we use now is really sketchy,
Oh, yeah.
because back in the day, there was no Christian calendar. We had a Roman calendar, and the year was 750, and in the Egyptian calendar, the year might have been like 4,000, I don't know, million. And so you had all of these different calendars.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality that we have, this Gregorian calendar reality, was sort of injected onto the history during during the Gregorian time of the Gregorian calendar, during the papacy of Gregory the 13th. He's the one that implied the Christian calendar on history, and I really have this feeling like we're missing some stuff.
Yeah. In the Ethiopian calendar, I think, aren't we still in 2012? Maybe it's
Something like that.
2016. I'm like, well, hell.
Yeah, there's a bunch. There's a lot that could be looked into. There's a lot of there's a lot of correction that could be made.
I think it's ways to keep things hidden. It's still ways to control, you know,
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
especially with the Western. That's I asked you before we went live what you thought about like prediction. And the reason I asked that is it's I guess it'd be more along the lines of astronomy where you have your prophets and they're looking for signs and they're looking for them in the sky. So then you'll have an astrologer that can predict certain things because of signs that are supposed to be in the sky. So unless you are accurate and actually seeing what's really there,
yeah.
same with the calendar, you're not going to see it. You're going to
Well,
miss it.
like we said off camera, I talked about the generational planets, and in real sky, like I only look at the larger planets, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, like generational planets. Um, so the last time Uranus was where it was is at the very beginning of the Nazi regime, so like 1939ish. And the last time Neptune was where it is was at, at the very beginning of just before the Civil War. So at the beginning of the Republican Party. Like that's where Neptune is now. And where Pluto is where it was during the Revolutionary War, the Declaration of Independence. So is it no wonder that we are like reviewing these things,
Mhm.
and this too shall pass. It's a phase. We're getting a second chance to look at these things again and make good choices again. It's another chance to get rid of fascism, another chance to enhance our independence, another chance to rethink our, you know, our union, our State of the Union, and to free the slaves. Another chance. And
Let's hope something happens because our political and without even going into it is broken.
it needs this reset. It's definitely going to go through a reset again, and you know, it's time for the Industrial Revolution to go up an octave, and we'll be doing that. We definitely will be doing that, and that's coming. Um, when the planets all get to those places where it was during the Industrial Revolution, and we get a chance to do it better.
So Carol is
Yes, the
uh
USA is having a Pluto return as well. It is. It's back where it was in 1776.
wow.
So, that's how long it takes for it to make one full orbit.
Yeah. Um Carol is very are you familiar with her channel?
No, I'm not.
She does a lot of numerology. So the Pythagoras triangle. And so she's very knowledgeable with that and also astrology, but she does use Western. But the planets, like you were telling me earlier, they're really good about getting what is in the sky. It's just they were wrong about the constellations. Did I say that right?
That's right. That's correct.
Okay.
Um, so Pluto in real sky is in Sagittarius right now, and that's hero villain. I think of Pluto as being the extreme, the extreme. So we're going to see extreme heroes and extreme villains, and it's right at the spot where it was during the Revolutionary War. Um, we're we're trying to get away from the divine right of kings again, and um, get back into democracy. When people are talking about democracy and how important it is, and here's a second chance. And um, where Neptune is, and it's retrograded out of its space again, and it's going back over. It'll be going back over when it goes direct. Um, is in Pisces, which is magicians. There's a lot of magician work going on. A lot of like only certain people can get in. Only certain people are allowed to be in the inner circle.
Elitism.
The elitism. So we're getting a look at that again. And we're going to be, Neptune is going to slowly travel through the area where it was during the Civil War over the till 2030. So there is going to be this resistance to change. Mars, right now, the first planet that I see as being the people who are not in your social circle, is about to go retrograde on the 30th of October. And it is right on the edge before it goes to Gemini. It's in Taurus. So it's going to be kind of back in Taurus. So those people who are not in our social circle are going to be going backwards over, kind of nostalgically looking at, what was. They're looking back at the old stuff that was, and they're not going to get on board, and they're not going to move forward and gather in Gemini where there's solidarity and you see an opposition to Pluto, the extremists. You're not going to see that until March and April. But by March and April, there's going to be people are going to be on board with getting back to democracy. There's just a few hardcore people that are just not going to be ready to get back with democracy and get back to helping. The reason for government is to allocate funds so that we have a more fair and perfect community, to be fair to everyone so that people aren't being trampled while other people are like living like kings. So the whole point of government is to work together and not work for the one, but to work for all the people and all the different people, not just the special ones.
Yeah, my opinion is, without even calling out anybody in politics or politicians or leaders, is anything that causes division. And politics causes division. No matter if you're standing in the middle, left, right, whatever, politics causes division. And you're right. It is a broken system and something needs to change.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is though. But I believe in what you said when we work together.
Yeah.
And yeah. But how do you do that? How do you rise above your differences and work together? Because we're all different. You can't point someone out for their differences.
You don't want children starving, and you don't want women dying, and you don't want people not being able to get married, and you don't want people incarcerated.
Coming together on the things that we can agree on.
Right.
Yeah. the humanitarian things.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you. That's beautiful. Um, wow. We're getting pretty darn deep here. So let's let's lighten it up a little bit.
Okay.
So
All right.
do you think you are psychic, or is it just your intuition, or do you think that, like the visions and stuff, what kind of gifts do you have, clairs and stuff like that?
Um, I think I'm on a need to know basis.
Oh, okay.
And
All
if I
right.
need to know, I get to know,
Okay.
It's like the universe wants me to do something or it wants me to know something, I'll get smacked with it.
So you think that we all have these gifts, it's just
Absolutely.
sometimes we get them at different times in our
Yeah, like
lives?
yeah, if you need to know something, boom, you'll get to know something.
Absolutely. So and how do you do that? How do you just pay attention?
I don't know. I don't know how I got to do this. I don't know how I got to do this.
So what is a day in the life of Julie now?
Pretty simple. And my day is pretty simple. I just post my cards, take care of any business that needs to be taken care of, clean my house, maybe take care of some grandchildren, make food, try to not waste food. You can do a lot of that and work on something creative. That makes me happy.
Do you meditate now?
Uh, Constantly. Like knitting is my finest form of meditation.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah.
Like you can do a lot of journey work when you're knitting. Like I think that's the old woman's drum circle is knitting.
I've never tried it. Maybe I need to try
Yeah.
it.
Like well, once you get into the rhythm of what you're doing, like especially if you know what you're doing, um, and you don't have to think about the pattern to get it right, then you can, solve problems, check on people, put your antenna up, find out what's going on. And
I do that on this one stretch of road when I'm headed into town. I meditate.
yeah, driving is a great
Look
way.
out! No,
Like,
just kidding.
whoa, I can't get too lost. I miss your exit, but yeah.
Yeah. Then I get to the stop sign and I'm like,
How did I get
whoa, that was great.
how did I get here? That was a fast journey.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, but I mean, I when I first met you, I thought, you look like Stevie Nicks. And she's beautiful. And
I wanna be Stevie Nicks.
well, I thought, I was thinking you could be her doppelganger, but then I started thinking
Not really. I know
maybe
people who look
she's
more like
your doppelganger.
her. Yeah. She's
I mean, I
very
don't know.
beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
I think as a person, she's kinda harsh. Do you think she's kinda harsh?
I don't know. I think
I mean, I've
she's
seen some
a white
interviews.
witch, or I thought she was, or she practiced it at one time.
I've seen some interviews with her, she seems kinda harsh.
Oh, well, I hope not.
Yeah,
But
I know.
I haven't really. I watched her in one show.
She seems a little unhappy. Like, I don't know, she has everything, but I think she's still unhappy. Like she didn't get all the love she needed or something. I don't know.
Wow, that's a very intuitive um, view, because you never know, you could be right.
Yeah,
Um, so you kind of covered your hobbies. You're an artist.
yeah.
You knit, and I've seen the things that I mean, you're making dolls and doll houses and clothes and
I like a creative challenge. I like trying new things and, making seeing if I can fix something or, I like that.
do you garden too, or
Peter does a lot of the gardening, but, I should know more, but he's
but you work
really
together, you're
so
a team.
fast. I mean, I can't keep up with how fast he is when he's doing gardening is like me cooking. Like, everybody get out of my way because I'm in a zone when I'm cooking, and
Yeah.
he's like that in the garden. So, we try to stay out of each other's way when it
And then you can
I ferment. I don't
ferment.
I ferment. I dehydrate things. I don't can. I
Okay.
I do fermenting instead of canning, which
And
I have to refrigerate it, but it's more nutritious. It's more there's more probiotics to it. So, nutrition is kind of a hobby of mine.
I was gonna ask. I
Yeah, it
thought
is.
so.
Yeah, it is. Um, my son had allergies to red food dye when he was little, and that got me thinking about food and what we eat and,
Mhm.
chemicals, and I had to be really careful because we'd have a bad afternoon if he ate something bad. Literally would cry until it was out of his system if he had red food dye. Like, he would have a complete personality change if he would eat red 40.
Oh,
So I
wow.
became very aware of what we eat, and and I had rheumatoid arthritis when I was 43, so bad that I couldn't sit cross-legged on the floor or, anything. So I cured that with food,
That's
and
amazing.
so
Mhm.
food, I'm very careful with food.
It's important. I'm not nowhere near disciplined like that, but you are exact it's very
Well, when you're
important.
in pain, you get disciplined, and I've been in complete remission for more than 20 years, so, yeah,
Wow. Kudos, Julie, definitely.
survival.
Yeah. Yeah, because arthritis is you're right, it's very debilitating.
Yeah, I mean, if I had just gone to a doctor and gotten drugs for it, I would be dead. I would be dead by now, for sure.
Absolutely. I believe you. I take, tart cherry, again, I'm not very, uh,
Cherry's
disciplined, but I take
cherry's really
vitamin
good.
C in that, and it is they both help immensely because I have arthritis.
Yeah, I still like my flour and my sugar, though. It's like my drug of choice,
Ah,
so
yeah, sometimes you just gotta,
Ah,
like,
yeah.
not deny yourself, you know,
Yeah, I know. It's those old family recipes that you just can't, not have.
and I'm sure you make them very well. So what about music? What do you think about music? Do you
Music is definitely a language that's out in the ethereal. I mean, I heard music when I would leave my body and see and be out, I would hear music. And if I had been musical, I would have been able to write those notes down. But I'm not musical. My children are musical. They all know how to do music and, understand music. I have don't speak that language. Um, I don't speak that language. I like music. I like all kinds of music, but I'm not musical. I've tried to play guitar. I'm not coordinated enough to do that. I tried to play the organ and piano, but I'm not coordinated enough to do that. And my brain just doesn't think in music.
but do you gravitate towards a certain type of music?
Uh, I like classic rock because it reminds me of the good old days. And when I was younger, I really loved harpsichord music. I was really attracted to harpsichord music and flute music, and in particular, um, well, I like all different kinds of music. I think music can be really motivating and can really lift your spirits. And um, Peter's really into music and
Does he
listening.
play anything?
He really would like to, I think, and he's tried.
I would really like to interview Peter and pick his brain like I did yours, if he's up for that, because I love to pick great minds.
His cards will be coming out fairly soon, so you might wanna interview him about that.
What
His
is that?
his cards, he's doing an oracle deck and a book, and I think he's getting close to finishing the book, but I think the oracle cards might take a little longer, so,
Oh,
But
that is
definitely within the
excellent.
next year, so
Well,
my
that's fantastic. Congratulations, Peter. I love that. That's awesome. I thought about doing something like that myself, but I don't know. I can't even imagine. That would take a long time.
it's
How long?
it's a
How
long,
long for a deck?
uh, mostly about 5 years to do a deck for me from scratch. Yeah.
But you do all your own artwork
I
and
do my own artwork, I write my own books. So, yes, it would take at least 5 years to have everything finished properly and edited and, in my hands from start to finish is about 5 years.
you have quite the legacy, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, you're famous in this community. It's like, there's
It was
everybody knows who you are.
it was good timing because I came in just before the big wave of tarot decks started really coming out. Like, Ancestral Path was early, and it was done in 1991, but it didn't come out until 1996. So,
Wow.
but then there was this huge, huge wave of tarot cards that have not stopped and it's not stopping. So I feel really lucky to have been in the beginning of that,
Mm-hmm.
and to ride the wave of popularity that it's having right now. It's like really lucky timing. And you know, like, I feel really lucky to have been, like, sort of early on. I started seeing pagan holidays in tarot imagery, and I'm glad I did the decks on that because now it seems really normal to have pagan holidays involved with tarot symbolism. And back in those days, people didn't understand what I was doing. I mean, moon cycles were unheard of, and phases of the moon, nobody did that. And now it feels like everybody knows about that.
Which is a good thing to see, to see us evolving to that.
I'm glad people are using the moon because I think it was really ignored. Like, it was really ignored for most of it. Like, I don't know. Now it seems really common. Like,
Yeah. I
it's
have to say that, this especially someone like yourself, we have these people outside that want to make the things that goes on in this type of community bad or evil or whatever. But my gosh,
it's just
no,
it's just
it's
cycles. It's just science. I mean, it's just natural cycles. It's not evil or even like powerful. It just is. And you can ride the waves of energy to get things done. I mean, I started using the moon on my projects because, I would get fired up at the full moon and start something. But then as the moon would wane, my project and my interest in the project it would fizzle out. And I would end up with all these projects that I hadn't finished, sitting around. But when I work with the cycles of the moon, when I work, during the creative time, I start things at new moon and then I work on the things I need to finish, and during the waning moon, I get everything finished. I don't start things
wow.
on waning moon. I don't. And that works for me. I don't know if that would work for everyone, but it works for me. And that's just how I work, and it's always how I've worked, which is why my business is New Moon Trading Company. So it's like the lunar stuff was always really important to me.
Wow, that's interesting. And I mean, it's something that I would definitely myself look into because I think we all might have that where we start something and we don't finish it. And having something that we can use as to scale those times in our lives is
Yeah,
definitely progressive and helps.
yeah. I don't not finish things now. I have like I come to the point where I've finished everything and now I have to try to find something to do.
Well, do you, I mean, because of that, is it something you think about, or is it now that you have like you have an unconscious deadline.
I I don't know. Like, I know there's a deadline. I know there's a deadline coming up, like, in the next 30 years for sure. Like,
Right. Well,
chapters really
so
in the next 30 years for sure.
so you don't have those moments anymore is where you're like, man, I need to get this done. It's more, it just happens.
Yeah, it's like, it's time for this, it's time for that, it's time to do this. And, it gets done.
Hmm.
It gets done because, I've set aside the time to do this.
So what do you think about uh you don't read tarot for other people, right? But you're
I
more of a creator.
Yeah, I can read
Mhm.
tarot for other people. I don't professionally do that. That's not a job that I want because I
Have you
don't
ever?
do counseling. When I would go to conferences, like back in the day, I mean, I used to go to all the conferences and show up for everything, and I would read cards and I would vend and I would do all the things. I don't want to counsel people. I don't want to do that work. That's not my job. I'm an artist. I don't even like writing the books, but if I don't write the books, then you don't know what's in my head. So I have to write
Absolutely.
down what I think because otherwise you won't understand where I'm coming from with my images. It's expected, especially
See,
when you have something that isn't RWS or yeah.
yeah,
So you
absolutely.
have to write why you've changed the elements around because
Mhm.
you have to, you know, argue your thesis.
That makes a lot of sense. Libra being creative. I'm a Virgo, and so what you said about the counseling makes perfect sense to me because that's exactly why I use tarot.
For counseling.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would use it for my own counseling. If
Yeah, well, yeah, I get it out
But
for the kids too.
I don't wanna get in other people's business.
Right. And I respect that too. Well, so what do you think about like so I know we talked about astrology. What are other forms of divination that you have been interested in? Like palmistry, numerology maybe, runes.
Yeah, I think numerology is part of my stuff. It's always a little bit in my stuff. Um, I've done I've done runes. I mean, I have runes in my possession. I haven't made runes. I haven't done Lenormand. I don't read Lenormand. Uh, I don't know. I don't know.
um so we talked about daily rituals. Oh, I know. Aliens. What do you think
Aliens.
about
I've
aliens?
seen them. They're out there. They're definitely out there. I have not seen them, like, physically in my space. I have felt them. I have seen them between places, like, in the places where I will have, like, out of body experiences. I think that's where they are. I think that's
Yes.
where their domain is. Um, that we can see ships, I think that's really interesting.
Mhm.
Um Yeah, I don't understand all of that. That's, like, still beyond me, but definitely they're real. I've seen, um, the little the little ones with the big eyes. I've looked into one of their eyes. It's clear and deep and dark, like a kinda like a cat's eye. You
Mhm.
know how it's clear, and then it's like that. I've looked into one of them. They would scare the crap out of me. I don't know why we're so afraid of them. Maybe because they don't know to knock, they
Yeah.
kinda just are there, and
Mhm.
you're not expecting them. Um,
Yep.
so maybe they don't understand our protocol about, like, areas of privacy or, um but I think I admire the way that they speak to you intuitively and,
Mhm.
um, the use of language, and, yeah, they're real. I think they really helped me. I think they're here to help. And I think that there are human beings who would use their ways to control people and
Mhm.
um, take advantage of the situation. I don't think it's them. I think it's us that takes advantage of other human beings.
I think that's beautiful, Julie. Um, so like it's alien is almost like a bad term. They're interdimensional beings.
Yeah,
And like
tease.
us,
Yeah,
we are interdimensional beings. When
yeah,
we are outside of this, we
yeah,
are an interdimensional being.
yeah, yeah. And there's something with time travel, and um, there's something where they're kind of connected to all of that. And yeah, I don't know. I can't even put that into words. I just know I just know that all of that is real, and they're trying to help us, cuz every time I've had an encounter, I've had some kind of like major leap revelation. So,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. It's that time to play a little game.
Okay. I'm
All
game.
right. Okay. So, and everybody in chat, play along because this is fun time. All right. Word association. All
Okay.
right. First word green.
Green. All I get is a picture cuz my brain works in pictures. So I see
Okay.
green, and I will see it written out. So there isn't,
Okay.
like, I don't have a word association.
Okay. So just the
Yeah,
you're
because my
seeing.
brain works in pictures.
Okay.
So I'll just give you
Um.
whatever comes to me.
Um. Work.
Um, play,
Mm, lovely. Power.
structure,
Mm. Blood
relative.
and egg.
Beginning.
Mm. I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I like to go back after I've done all these interviews and write down everybody's answers. And I do look at the live chat too. So it just, I don't know. What do you think about word association, Julie?
I think it's a great way to trigger your subconscious, you know, like, it's a great way to get those secrets out.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just a trigger, like tarot is a trigger.
Yeah. It uncovers things about people.
We don't wanna live in our subconscious, but, it's there.
It is. It is. And it's that it's how we see everything, you know. Well, I could do a part two and a part three with everything that I would love to talk to you about. But I know that Amber has gotten quite a bit out of you. but
This is true. She she has.
but I love it. I mean, your story is extremely interesting. So and if you're Peter says that I definitely should do another one, and I think I would like to. So I think when we're done here, if you're willing,
Yeah, I'm
we'll
willing.
schedule another one and maybe go through specifics
Okay,
like Amber did, but on my channel.
okay, okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm
All
there
right.
for it.
With so is there anything coming up that you have going on exciting that
Let's see what's coming up. I don't know. I think I think this is my last live for a while. I don't have anybody on the schedule. Well,
till the
um,
30th?
yes, till the 30th. Um, let's see. We've got a Samhain ghost feast that we'll be doing um, at our house on, I think, the 5th of November, where we'll have everyone of our friends come and bring ancestral food, and then we'll put everything out on the table, and then we'll all go outside. And then the youngest women in the group will come back in the house and light candles, turn off all the lights, and open up all the dishes and put all of the spirit food on a plate, and then meet us all back out to the fire. And then we will honor the ancestors and put the spirit plate into the fire, and then we'll all march back up to the house, and the young girls will turn the lights back on and close up the food, and we call that our ghost feast. And so then the rest of the night we'll eat the food, and then the guests will take all the food away out of the house, and that will be our fun ghost feast that we'll be having.
That does sound wonderful. You
Yeah,
know,
it's fun. We do it every year.
and how many people are involved in that?
Oh, usually our close friends, just, maybe 30 people at the most.
Wow.
Um,
See,
you know,
I don't know if I could get, I mean, most of my friends like you're talking about are here, all of you. And
yeah.
so unless you all want to come to my house and do that sometime, most
Yeah,
people are like, you're doing what? I'm
we
like,
have a few people who have been our friends for a really long time, and like we raised our kids together, and now those kids have kids, and just this, and our neighbors, and we'll just all, come together and have food and just hang out and say the names of the dead into the fire, and just talk about people who passed away, and if anybody new has passed away. And it's just, we've been doing this for, oh, I don't know, pretty long, maybe 25 years. So,
I think that's fantastic.
yeah.
Man, wish I had friends like you.
Yeah. Well, we live in a really small conservative town, but there are a few of us who are just really, really good friends. And, you know,
Yeah, but I mean, exactly what you're talking about, that whole ritual. I think my friends would be like, you know,
oh,
think it's a little quirky, you know.
well,
I did the band thing for 30 years. All of them, they just want to come over and
party.
shoot the shit.
Well, all you can do is try. I mean,
I would definitely
yeah,
they know that I like that stuff.
yeah, have a ghost feast. Maybe
Yeah,
you might change some people.
I'm hoping. See, because they all know that I like that stuff. They have but they're like, we love you, Carla, but it's a regardless that you're a little cuckoo. Like,
Well,
well, thank you.
not everybody talks to their dead, and maybe they should.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's awesome. So I'm going to have Amber next weekend,
I'll
and
watch that.
I'm gonna pick her brain. And then so yeah, on the 30th we've got oh wait, I think we have a round table also on that day. Um the 22nd, without looking at my calendar. I'm
Busy, busy. Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I keep that to the weekends because weekdays is all about grandbabies.
man, it's exhausting work.
Yeah, cuz how many do you have?
Just two.
Just
Just
two,
two.
but
And
they can be exhausting.
I also
Yeah.
sleep on the couch, which I never do at the end of that day.
Oh,
Like, sleep
exactly.
really
Because
bad.
how old are they, Julie?
Uh, 4 and 6,
Yeah.
and yeah, they're really at a fun age now, so they're, not at that dangerous age where I think they're gonna fall down the stairs, but, now they're starting to play with toys the way they should, and they're really fun, and they love to cook with me, and we're really starting to have a good time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, mine are 4, 3, and 2.
Yeah, the 3 and the 2s are hard. 3s and
Yeah.
2s can be hard because 'cause they're still dangerous.
Yeah.
They're still dangerous, you gotta watch them every second,
Well,
once they get to be.
3-year-old she's smart little girl, and her name is Lola, and the oldest is 4, a boy. And Lola is smarter. She's not smarter. She's a girl. So,
She's a girl. I know, they
yeah.
use tools. They use tools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Liam is he's very, ADHD. I guess
Boys
that
are
would be
just
it.
more active. Boys
Yeah.
are more active.
Yeah. And he wants to interact with you where Lola, she plays by herself.
Nah, none of mine play by themselves. They
But
all wanna get us involved with hide and
and
go
it's
seek
fun.
and all that, yeah. But
It's
they
fun.
are doing more on their own. Now I just put the paints out and they'll go at it, you know?
That's awesome. That's a good outlet for the babies, is getting them to create,
In
as long as
5
it's not on the
minutes, 5
walls.
minutes, they'll paint, and then it'll be
Yeah,
on something else.
exactly. That's what I have
That's what's
going on.
exhausting, is to
Mhm.
change your direction, the constant change of direction.
And the mess.
Yeah, I have places for everything, and everything has its place, and that's how I cope in my tiny house.
Yes, that's awesome. Yeah, 'cause they kinda run mine, but
Well, they have their routine, they wanna do the same thing every
mhm,
day, and
that is
they run the routine, and
yep.
sometimes they wanna run that whole routine in the first hour.
Absolutely.
I know what
Oh my
you're going through,
gosh.
Carla, I know what you're going through, and it's a
I
huge
know you
job.
do.
I have total respect for what you're doing.
Well, thank you, and right back at you. This has been fantastic. I'm gonna go ahead and say goodbye to everybody in chat, and thank you so much
Thanks for coming.
for being here. And stay tuned because we will have a part 2. And I love everybody.